One of the questions that I used to ask my interviewers, for jobs is, are you the same person you were 20 years ago? Have you grown? Have you changed? Why isn't it possible that that could happen for me too? And they would agree with me, but it still didn't get me the job.
Tucson native Manny Mejías was released from prison in 2008 when he completed a 20-year sentence for second-degree murder. When he was 15 years old in the 1980s, Mejías helped two other teenagers rob a fellow high school student who was killed by one of the older teens during that crime.
I was high, I was drunk, and I was very angry. I had gotten in an argument with my parents earlier, and so I left the house with the intentions of, forgetting about it, getting high, getting drunk, and, releasing some anger.
Police caught Mejías and the other suspects, and all three were sentenced to prison. While there, Mejías began a metamorphosis. He took advantage of educational opportunities, became a Christian, and reflected on his actions.
Then I realized, I can't blame anybody or anything for the decisions that I made. I made those choices, and I had to live with them.
And that's been reinforced in the mainstream society. While technically a free man now, Mejías discovered he would carry the past like the clothing on his body.
We're called ex-cons, we're called ex-felons, and one of the things that I tell people all the time is just because you put an X in front of that word, it doesn't make it disappear, right? So the term that we use is system involved. I'm a system-involved person.
System-involved people often face barriers when it comes to voting, for educational financial aid, or when looking for a place to live, as Mejías and his wife found out due to his record.
When we were trying to look for a place to stay, every time we were asked to fill out an application for a rental property, there was always the question in there, has anybody in your family been convicted of a felony? After paying so many application fees and getting denied, we stopped going through realtors. We started looking for the signs on the stop signs that would say, 4-bedroom, for rent, call this phone number, or looking on Craigslist for a friend of a friend who just had a property that was trying to rent out. So we ended up in a lot of not so nice houses. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I promised myself before I even got out was that I'd never go back to the neighborhood. I'd never go back to the place that, my stomping grounds that formed my opinions of things, and that's exactly where we ended up living because that's the only place we could find a rental.
There are also barriers when looking for jobs.
Every time that question was asked, have you been convicted of a felony, I had check mark the box and it wouldn't be called back. I literally had my resume passed back to me, somebody saying we don't hire felons, and so I had to do my best. I had to recycle cans, I had to follow the brush and bulky around and try to find, good garbage that I could turn around and sell at the swap meet. I had to take any side job that I could find. I flipped burgers, I've scrubbed toilets. I did anything and everything I could possibly do to stay legit and stay free.
It's like we hamstring people. And then blame them when they fail.
Grace Gámez works at the Arizona office of the American Friends Service Committee. The Quaker nonprofit organization fights against the expansion of private prisons and advocates for prisoners' rights.
They're living lives that are on a totally different track than everyone else. They're quasi-citizens, right? Not able to access the rights and goods of every other citizen. We've set up this structure such that people are never done doing time.
And it's affecting millions of people around the country. According to government figures, more than 600,000 ex-offenders are released from prison every year in the United States. At most, nearly 70% will return to prison within 3 years. However, activists believe these numbers can be reduced.
The probation fees in the judge's mind are expenses that probation spent.
This free workshop in Pima County is an example. It's a rights restoration project for people with federal and Arizona convictions who have already completed their sentences. It's hosted by different groups, including those that may be able to assist with employment.
If you're convicted of a domestic violence offense, whether a felony or a misdemeanor, you lose your gun rights under federal law.
Attorney Andy Silverman has been doing prison work through the University of Arizona Law School since 1970.
It's probably a little better today than maybe it was a few years ago because
people are starting to realize, first of all, how many people are in that situation. I mean, just in Arizona alone, we have over 40,000 people in prison, and most of those people will be getting released from prison. And it's not just people who have recent criminal convictions that face these problems. I get calls from people who have convictions 20 and 30 years ago who say, you know, I can't get a job.
Manny Mejías is one of the lucky ones.
Those lead to different things. Well, you drank a beer, well, then smoke the joint. You know, well, you smoke the joint, we'll do this line. It never stops.
He made a video about his story, from rock bottom to the positive changes he's accomplished, and the word began to spread. Someone saw the story, was impressed by his progress, and believed in him. She helped him find a job at a nonprofit organization.
Remember I told you about Society Standard? You're new, right? It's your first time? All right.
As the re-entry coordinator for the Pima Prevention Partnership, Mejías works with inmates who are close to getting out or are back in the community.
Then all the reality of freedom is going to hit us, right? The good and the bad. Then the stink of prison is going to start disappearing from our nostrils.
Prepare for the outside world and its rules, he says. Stay positive and do all you can to avoid repeating your mistakes.
I think it's really good. I didn't even know about it until someone called my name up there and asked me, told me I qualified for this class, and I didn't know what it was about and stuff, and I feel like it's a blessing that I could really change my life.
To hear his story, you know, and be able to come out and achieve what he's achieved, you know, in the little bit of time that he's been out, I mean, it's a blessing. So I think that helps out a lot. And, you know, there is a future. You know, this is not the end, basically.
Mejías says he couldn't have done it without societal assistance, his faith, and the love and support from his wife, who married him in 2004, 4 years before he was released from prison. But life continues to be a struggle, he admits. Thanks to health care benefits from his job, Mejías is getting counseling for PTSD from his prison years.
It's very, very hard to have to get up in the morning sometimes and know, you know, okay, people are going to be looking down on me. People are going to be, you know, turning their backs on me. I'm going to hear no a lot, you know, even though I'm not making bad decisions anymore. It's not just get out of prison and start life all over. And that takes a toll on you know. Living in a free world with a tainted prison mentality, that's a lot to bear every day. And I have to stay on top of it. Again, freedom management. I have to manage my freedom.